All right. So God is so funny. He really does have a great sense of humor because we're talking about all the things that we need to be doing and all the priorities and all this, that, and the other. And this is our fourth week to have an amazing speaker. And we are going to kind of wrap it all up tonight. So, Amy, I appreciate you doing this for our team. It's been amazing. And I'm just going to let you take it away.
Perfect. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all. I'm messing with my hair. I'm like, oh, I should have looked in the mirror. But I appreciate y'all so much. I have really enjoyed doing this. And, everything that we all have probably learned along the way is that I want to make sure. Can y'all hear me? It said my internet was unstable. Okay, good. You are so sweet. Everything that we talk about is sometimes we have to be stretched out of our comfort zone. And it's amazing what we learn and God shows us. And so anyway, I have loved being here the last few weeks with you. I'm learning from y'all as well. And so here's the thing, as we wrap up, I really want those of you that are going to be listening in on, maybe listening on YouTube or whatever link you're listening in on, I would love for you just to send me a message that just says what you got out of this, like what are the biggest takeaways that you got, because it helps me as we move forward, what kind of things did you really get from it, and maybe what would you have liked to have learned a little bit more about. And so I would really appreciate that, because feedback to me is always helpful. So all right, let me just open us in prayer real quick, and then we will get started. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this team, this group, the relationships. Lord, thank you for teaching us so much about relationships with you, the relationship that you want us to build with you and with ourselves and with others. And God, you made us to be in relationships. And so God, guide us, direct us to be the best relationships that we can be, and that we would just continue to learn, to be open to learning more, and learning to keep our priorities straight. So Lord, thank you for your grace and your mercy and your love, and we give you all of this in Jesus' name, amen. All right. So let's get going here. Week 4, I can't believe we're already on the last week of this. And we're really kind of continuing on. As in the beginning, I was like, when I first started writing this out, I was like, well, what's week 4 going to be? And I was like, I think I originally said something like, I could look it up, but it said something about that we were, let's see here. I can't even remember what I said, what it was going to be. What do we do now with it, or something like that? I think I made up something like that. And so, but what I realized is that it's just kind of played itself out. And so the first 2 weeks were really about prioritizing our relationships, what we can control, and then learning that it all starts with what we're willing to do for ourselves, and so are we willing to grow ourselves, and so we talked about no matter what the relationship is, whether you're working on something right now, and I think that at all times we are working on relationships, whether it is with ourselves, with our relationship with Christ, our relationship with a family member, with a friend, with our business, whatever it is. At all times there's some kind of relationship that's growing, and that's really because God did create us for relationships. And so we aren't going to get away from working on it. He doesn't let us off the hook. It just doesn't happen. So we are always going to be doing those things, and we're all going to learn. We're going to evolve, and we're going to learn through all of this, through each relationship. And so, but we did learn that it is about strengthening relationships. That is going to start with us, right? And so I said, you remember, I said, when I work on me, I work on us. Okay. And so that doesn't mean that we're going to be selfish and I don't want to work on you. I'm going to work on me. Amy said, it's all about me. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to tell your spouse or your friends or family members. Amy says it's okay. Just think about me. But what we've kind of learned over the last few weeks is that we cannot control other people. We can only control what we can control, and that is creating new habits, learning more about relationships, learning what God says about relationships, and then spending that time daily and creating those habits. And so that is where you're going to see relationships. And I remember, Monique, you saying, as you are working on some of these things, your children are starting to recognize things. Your children are starting to play out some of the stuff that they're seeing you do. And that comes from you working on you. And so when we work on us, work on ourselves, we work on our relationship with our kids, our relationship with our spouse, our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our whatever, our friends, other family members, our, parenting, whatever that is. And so just remember that we have to grow within ourselves. And so many times, me, and it's probably just me, I know it's probably just me, but my stubbornness wants to come out and I just want to fix everybody else. I don't want to be a part of the process. I feel like God's always, every time I need to work on a relationship, God brings it back to me. And I'm like, okay, could we just stop working on me? But that should be a good sign that it's going to start here first. And so, one of the verses that I read to y'all, one of the Bible verses that I read to y'all last week was Ephesians 5:13, and that has just kind of come up many times throughout my week. And that is, when things are exposed to the light, they become visible. And to me, that is saying, when things become visible, we can deal with them. Okay. They need to come to the light, because if we suppress things, then we put it in this box and it just becomes this very, a lot of times when things are hard or emotional, we want to put it in a box and we want to put it away because we don't want to feel those things, right? But anytime we do that, it's going to rear its ugly head at some point, okay? It's going to keep coming up in our life. And God has shown me that so many times over my life. And so, and I don't know why I still fight it, I'm 51 years old and I still fight it, but it is, we still have to expose things to the light. And so if we will work on that relationship and bring things up, and so we're going to talk about a little bit, we're going to wrap it up with some more communication, and that is bringing things to the light. And they don't have to, if you're like me, communication sometimes meant conflict. And that was like some baggage that I probably brought from my own childhood or just my own insecurities. And it doesn't mean, communication doesn't have to mean conflict, okay? It's bringing things to the light so that we can deal with them. They are visible. They are there. We can deal with them. And that's when we're working on our daily habits of staying in God's word, praying, talking to him, growing our relationship, because then all of a sudden we can work on things. It's not so bad. Okay. So that's why we started with that way. First off, what is there anybody that would like to, share anything that happened over the week that you kind of thought, oh, wow, that was from me creating these new habits or learning some more communication tools, anything like that came up? And if you're watching the recording, you can send me a message about it. Good. Okay. Awesome. All right. So like I said, we talked about strengthening relationships, working on us, and then strengthening relationships requires communication. And not only is communication not conflict, but communication isn't to prove you are right. We talked about that last week.
Hey, Amy.
Yeah.
I am going to interrupt you because I do have something that has come up several times this week that I was waiting to see if anybody else wanted to talk.
Please.
But it goes back to what we're talking about and how we, like, I always in my head have already planned out the entire conversation, my side and their side in my head. And this week, I just keep going back to thinking, I'm trying to like make my mind blank. So I don't already have exactly what my husband is going to say. I mean, we've known each other for a very long time. So we do kind of finish each other's sentences, but there's so many times that that's not healthy either because he wasn't thinking that, or he, so it is kind of a trap because you're like, oh, we've been together for 22 years. I know exactly what you're thinking. No, you really don't. So this week I've been more intentional, and it's not been easy. And I would never, he's not even here right now because I would not even say this out loud because I don't want him to go, oh, that's why you're acting the way you are. So. So anyway, but
it's awesome.
But it is, yeah, it's different. So I just wanted to share that.
That's good. That's so true. I didn't think about it, until you said that, is that's that part of us that wants to control things. If we can plan out the whole thing on both sides, then we can be ready, because we don't want to be caught off guard, or we want to, whatever, avoid conflict or whatever the case is, and so if we can think it all out ahead of time, but most of the time it's not even that, so that's really a good point. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Well, let's move on then. We talked about strengthening relationships requires communication, and communication, like we said, doesn't necessarily mean conflict, but it also doesn't mean that we are also have to prove that we are right. All right. And maybe that's just a me thing. I don't know, is that sometimes I go into a communication, a lot of times I go into a communication where I go, okay, I'm right, you're wrong, and this is going to be a conversation where you're going to come to that realization that I'm right and you're wrong. And it doesn't happen like that. And more times than not, God will humble me and I will go, okay, I was the one that was wrong. Or like we talked about in the beginning, sometimes we have to go to the place of going, we're going to need to table this, and we're going to need to be able to say, agree to disagree on this. And it's okay. It's all right sometimes, unless it's a big major thing. But sometimes it's all right to just go, you know what, we're just not going to see eye to eye on this. And it's okay. It's really not the end of the world if we do that. So, all right. So we talked about in the beginning what relationships affect, but we talked, if communication is so important in relationships, then communication can help those areas. Okay, so if relationships affect our business, our other relationships, or things like that, we talk about they can affect everything, then we have to realize that communication will also help the relationships, the business. It can help create peace. What are some other things that, if you don't mind shouting out just a couple things that are here that you think communication helps with?
Self-talk.
That's good.
I think it helps like physically, because if you keep everything inside and you don't have a someone to talk to that's going to give you some sound advice, someone you can completely trust. What there's probably not very many of those people in our lives. But if you don't have that, then I mean, that's where heart attacks, stroke, short lives, acne, varicose veins, all that stuff that is stressed, fever blisters, whatever. It's all because of stress, and you keep it all in.
You mean that my varicose veins now? I never thought about that. So my stress and my stuff keeping things inside. I'm gonna need to work on that. I don't like those things. That's awesome though, but it's so true, is that we bottle things up, and ulcers. And I have a very good friend that she was having so many medical issues, and her stress and her not unwillingness to just open up about things were just starting to build up, to the point that she literally she'd been in the hospital so many times with so many stomach issues and things like that, and then really had an ulcer that ruptured. And her doctor did blood work and said, you need to get to the hospital now. They literally had to do a blood transfusion to save her life. And after it all came out, and at the end of it, it came out that it was really stress. And so, I mean, it literally can change your whole physical being. So it's so good to communicate, like you said, and to have that person. I used to tell my girls, I'm going to share a couple of things tonight that I used to tell my girls a lot. And that was, you'll have your front row friends, then you're like your second row friends, and then your third row friends. And you're not necessarily going to tell everything to those second and third row friends, but your first row friends, maybe only one person on it, or maybe two people, whatever it is. But it's the people that you can trust with everything, that you can really pour those things out to. And so it is good to be praying for those kind of people. I had to pray for people like that to be in my life, and they're very few in between, but it's okay to have those. Anyway, very good. Love that. Monique, did you have anything that you feel like communication helps with?
Nope, Gina got it. I was just going to state it helps with stress. I mean, help with health, just from mental health to physical health. That's what I was going to state.
Perfect. Yeah, that's so good.
And I think also we need to talk about, like, another thing is, if you are in a toxic relationship, then all of this is, I mean, I just put either relationships can help you or they can kill you.
It's so true.
And so we think, I mean, when we're talking about relationships, I tend to always go towards the positive, like like someone I can talk to, someone I can vent with, the positive stuff. But there are so many relationships, like, especially with this business, you'll have one person say, well, that's a scam. And then you're like, I'm out, because even though you've made $10,000 in a month, you're like, I'm over, forget it. This isn't for me. And so it's those toxic relationships that we have to put at bay to protect ourselves. And again, it goes back to what you were saying at the very first, you can control what you can control.
Right. And it's okay to put boundaries down, it's okay to put boundaries and say, this is what I believe. And those are those habits that we're going to create daily that are going to build your confidence up, that are going to be able to let you know what's right. What is bringing things to the light again is what's being able to see the visible part of right and wrong. Okay. Truth and, something that's not, I mean, it's those things. And so as your confidence grows, by doing the business, by taking care of your daily habits and priorities, then you will start to be able to recognize those things a little bit more, because they can throw you completely off track. We've all been there, we've all done that and are experienced that, and so that's so good. And not only toxic relationships, just people being ugly, just saying things, but toxic relationships even within your own household and stuff. We have to think about those things, that there are some people that have those things. And I did put this down for later to talk about, but it's kind of bringing it up here, and that's okay. And it's that if there's toxic relationships to the point of that you can't have those conversations, then that brings me back to like when we first started. Some of these things, there needs to be counselors. I'm a huge advocate that counselors, you need to find a good counselor. And if you don't know somebody, again, reach out to your leaders. I know Gina knows people, and like there's just, we'll help you find somebody, and so those are those things, though, that they're not just the simple, I shouldn't say simple, but they're just not the everyday communication stuff that a lot of people are dealing with. And if there's some things that are like, no, I could never have a communication with this person because I would not feel safe afterwards, or whatever the case be, please know that that's not what we're talking about here, but that is something that you should get help for. I mean, that's not something that you would ever be able to control or be able to work on, even, by yourself. So just want to point that out. Okay, so what are some good communication starters? I think these are some things that you need. My whole point in doing this is that you need to have tools in your tool belt. Okay, you're gonna have a tool belt on at all times, and you gotta have those tools to be able to pull out and go, okay, because if you're like me and go, I'm mad right now and I'm not gonna have good conversation starters, I'm just gonna tell you how wrong you are, and you're gonna come to the realization that I'm right. And so those are not good ways to start communication. Okay, that's just conflict, that's just control, and we have to call it for what it is. I mean, that happened to you yesterday? It's happened to me so many times I can't count. But I think that we have to have some communication starters, and there's things like, I know something is off with us. Okay, you could do that. And have I done something to offend you? You have to let yourself be the bigger person. You also have to realize that you might have done something, said something that might have been offensive, and it wasn't intentional. And it is okay, and it's even biblical for people to come to you and say, you offended me, or for you to be able to say, what's going on? I feel something here. And again, I have another friend that was so good about this. And in the beginning, it caught me off guard because I was not used to, normally we do the whole thing of, how you doing? Oh, fine. Even when we're not fine, I'm fine. And we try to just sweep everything under the rug, right? But she was so good about coming to me, and she was like, I need you to know that when you did this, it really hurt my feelings. And at first I was like, oh gosh, because I'm the people pleaser. I'm the one that's like trying to, make sure everybody's happy. And the fact that I was the one that was doing it, I was hurting her feelings. I was like, oh my goodness. So but what I learned was it was really healthy for us. And our friendship grew deeper and deeper and deeper. And she is one of those front row friends that I talked about, because of her being able to do that, it brought vulnerability to our relationship, and just the honesty and the deepness of it, because because we could be so honest with each other. So I think it's okay to say that. So make sure that's part of that communication. Make sure you go to people. If they've offended you, don't assume they did it on purpose. That's the biggest thing, is don't assume they did it on purpose. I used to tell my girls, I'm going back to everything I told my girls, assume that their heart was good, that they just made a mistake. Have we all made mistakes in the past? Yes. Have we said things that were ugly that we didn't mean to? Our bad day came out on someone else, whatever it was. But your heart was never, ever in a place that you would intentionally want to hurt someone, you know? And I can say that about most of you that I know out here, is that your hearts are so good and you would never intentionally, but we do it. So I think we have to realize that we have to give that same thing to other people. We have to be able to say, they're not doing this on purpose, you know, and maybe I did offend them. And so they're holding on to some bitterness because of it. And so I need to go and say, hey, have I done something? I noticed something's off with us. Have I done something to offend you? And let them say if you have or if you haven't, or hey, I'm just having a really bad week and it's not anything to do with you. And if they want to talk to you about it, great. If not, then you've got to let it go. Okay. And realize that that's not about you. Okay. So good communication starters. Anybody want to just share real quick? What do you think are some good communication starters that would be something that would be helpful to put into our tool belts?
You said the one that I was going to say with your example with your friend, because basically you say, when you blank, I felt blank, to kind of basically state it was something that you said or something that you did, and then it's how it made me feel. So to me, it's a non-judgmental way of opening up communication with the person in hopes that they don't come at you in a defensive way. I think that's a great way to start a conversation with someone, because if you just come out and say, which is what happened with my husband and me. Oh, so that's how you feel? And it's like, and should have said, well, when you just said that, that just kind of made me feel a sort of way, like, wait a second. And I just realized, like, our dialogue is going on a different volume and a different tone. So, you know, can we change it and let's start over? Or what happened? What did I say? Or, you know, but if like you said with your friend, if when you blank, I feel or felt, or it made me feel blank, is really a great way to open all communication without hopefully the other person being, and if they're just, that's when you know that at that point in time, it's not the time to communicate, because they're just that much in a defensive mode.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. Anything else we can think of?
I think like I forget what it's called now, but it's like the onion approach. Like you ask a question and then you ask a question that's a kind of another question to that question. You ask another question. I mean, you ask it like 5 times to find out what's really going on. That would be, I'm just thinking with my teenage daughter, I have to do that a lot, because if I go, well, how was your day? Fine. That's not good enough for me. So I keep asking until finally she either just gives up and starts talking to me, or she gives up and starts talking. Either way it works. But it takes time. I mean, it's exhausting. I'm like, why couldn't you have just told me what you did today 15 minutes ago? Why do we have to go through this charade? But again, relationships are messy and they take time, and it's an investment. And so those are things that just come with it.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Yep. You know, another thing is that another one that I had put down was, I know our relationship has been struggling lately, and I just want you to know that I would love to get things in the open and get back to being whatever, because we have to be realized, like, if we're feeling something, especially if it's been going for a while,
Mm.
we're feeling something, the other person's feeling it too. If we both know, and there's like distance being put between us, whatever it is, you can say, I know our relationship has been struggling lately. Just bring it to the light. Again, you've got to keep that. I just, that verse has stuck with me all week, and that is bringing things to the light. And so if we bring things to the light, I know that it's been struggling, and my desire is for things to get better. So letting them know your heart, all right? And then again, we cannot control what's going to happen on their end. So the other one, and I thought is, I know, and then you can also follow it up with, I know we might not be able to fix everything right now, but I want you to know that I value you and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Okay. Just the vulnerability of things. All right. Let yourself be humble, let your self be vulnerable. And again, that's the daily habits that we're going to grow in growing ourselves, growing our relationship with Christ. All of those things are going to give us strength, confidence in growing relationships with other people and knowing what to say. And again, please, no, I don't get it right all the time. Monique, when you were talking about the conversation you had with your husband, I had one too. And it was about hanging curtains. I don't know where it went. I don't know how it got there. And he looked at me and he was like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, but at the time I was like, but this is the way you're making me feel. And he's like, oh, okay. So I blame it on menopause, whatever you want to call it. So, but those are the things, that sometimes we have to just be able to go, okay, I value our relationship, and I'm, apologize when you need to apologize. That's the other thing. Apologize. It's okay. Apologize to your kids. I had to do it all the time raising my kids, and it's okay. And then the other thing I put is being open to what someone else is feeling. Know their heart. Like we talked about before, is would they hurt you intentionally? If they would, then that's another story. And again, that's where we have to get to where you get help for counseling, dealing with those situations and working through those things. That's bigger than what we can cover on these things. But just having to have that self-talk a little bit before the communication, and that is knowing, okay, would they do this on purpose? That's okay. Now there are people, I'm just going to put this out here, there are people that sometimes you can actually forgive them, okay, for things that happened. For instance, I always like to do a little story just so we can, kind of give a little bit of an explanation of things. But there was somebody that I knew that we were close, very close at one time, and she, for some reason, felt very compelled to interject certain things into my children's life, and it was not what I thought was proper. And so I was mad for a very long time. And actually, I did not do the right thing. I did not go to her. But over years, and we're talking years, she finally came to me and she apologized for it. Now, I forgave her, and I forgave her even more over time. We actually just not too long ago spent a whole weekend, did a girls' weekend, and it felt so good to have that relationship back. But I will also tell you that there are boundaries there. Okay. I can love her for who she is. I can forgive her for what she did, but there are boundaries because there's some trust that was broken. And so I think that it is so good to be able to say, you know what, I love you It's okay. I can love you, but I don't have to trust you with everything. It's okay,
Mm.
you know? And so boundaries are important. I think that's good. I think that's really good. So just know that in relationships, whether it be through, now, if it's a marital relationship, you're going to need to work on that because we got to be able to break those boundaries down. But as far as friendships, business friendships, whatever they are, sometimes it's okay to be around the person, hang out with the person, but also put boundaries down. Okay. That's all right. You don't have to hold things over people's heads. You don't have to do things like that because we can work things out. We can be in the same room together. We could spend a whole weekend together and still laugh and enjoy each other's company. Be genuinely interested in what's going on in their life. Pray for them, but it's still okay to have a boundary that says, okay, this is where our relationship will go. This is probably where it will stay, and it will not go over here because I don't trust it, and that's all right. Unless God gives you something to open that and to break those boundaries down, I think it's okay to still have that. That's just my opinion. So that being said, that kind of segues into, because we're about to run out of time, I want to finish this up, okay, with bringing this business, okay? Since I'm talking to y'all, you're distributors, and I want to talk about relationships within this business for just a little bit, okay? A lot of everything that we've talked about up to here have been about, we could cross over any kind of relationships, really, okay? But I really want to talk about the relationships within your business. And it still could be that it's your spouse, your family, but it's going to revolve around your business, okay? This business, from what I have experienced, can be intimidating at times, okay? It can be intimidating to your spouse, to your boyfriend, to your friends, to other family members, right? Don't you think that there's some intimidation that sometimes comes? And sometimes it's because it's a lack of understanding. And so they don't get it necessarily. If they're not in the business, then they may not get it. They see you getting hyped up, right? We're really good at getting hyped up. And it feels good, and we're, and it's fun, those are fun things. They see you making a new set of friends, all right? Do you think that could be intimidating a little bit? Especially if they're in a place that they don't feel very good about friendships right now, or whatever the case is. They see you making new friends. They may see you growing, okay? And all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, am I getting left behind here? What's going on here? And so you can be a little bit intimidating. They might even see you start making more money, like a spouse. I've seen that over and over in this business, is that there's been times where, a husband or wife or whatever it is, that one is making more money than the other, and the other one's feeling like, oh my gosh, what's my worth? What am I supposed to do? Am I failing at something in life because of this? Are our priorities all, is this person going to go away now because they don't need me? So all of a sudden you take all of your insecurities from this person over here, and then you take something and growing on something over here, all of a sudden that just makes that. Now, is that your responsibility to make that person feel better? No. But communication can really go a long ways. And that is sitting down and saying, for instance, if it was a spouse, you could say, hey, I'm doing this for us. We agreed that this is what we needed. We needed extra money for XYZ. This is what I'm doing. It's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. But I realize that it's causing some tension here, and you are my priority. I need to know, what is it that's causing you to feel insecure, or what kind of feelings is it bringing up for you? And are you feeling, like we said before, are you feeling like you are still a priority in my life? And if they say no, then you say, okay, what can we do to work on that? because I want to make sure. But at the same time, I'm still trying to learn all this stuff, and it gets busy and it's crazy. And sometimes we work weird hours, and we need to talk about like what's okay and what's not okay in our relationship, you know? But if this is still the main goal, I want you to know, because if we don't have those conversations, if we don't have that communication going on, then all of a sudden they're upset because you're doing this and you're doing that. And then you're getting upset because you're like, well, we decided we were going to do this, you know, and I'm bettering myself. Don't you want me to better myself? You know, these are the conversations that are going in each other's heads. All right. And you understand, then all of a sudden it's building up and building up and building up, and then it explodes. And then you're talking about curtains and you don't know why anybody's mad. And so, you know, it's just things like that that all of a sudden that build up, you know. And so I want you to realize is that even in this business, if you feel the tension from somebody else that's going, I don't know what's going on, it could be a friend. And it's okay that not all your friends want to join the business. Okay. And if it's a friend that's feeling like they're left behind, then all of a sudden you go, oh gosh, you know, we need to work on this. And so really be in tune to what you're feeling. Your feelings are real. What you're feeling and the tension that might be happening between friends, it's so important to go to them and talk to them. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is don't leave your friends behind. You know, I mean, you can't, like I said, we've said before, you can't control what they're going to do, but you have to be able to talk to them and say, hey, I still want to be friends. Let's go. Yes, I've got new friends and that's exciting, but you are still my friend, and I still want to spend time with you. I still want to call and check up on you. I want you to still call and check up on me. You know, I don't want things to change between us, but I do want you to know that things are over here are growing, and it might be a little bit different over here, but that doesn't mean that it has to be different with us. So you need to have those communications there. Okay. So, okay, I got off a little bit, but those were things that I said that I wanted to talk about. And so making sure that we are having those conversations, that communication with them within this business. We talked about early on with your kids, talk about why you're doing this business, and then say things like I think I may have mentioned this before in the beginning, early on, and that was, my daughter was very big on us spending time together, like quality time. And she's big into movies. She knows all the writers and the producers and all that kind of stuff. And she does not like it if people are not paying attention to the movie. And so I had to say, is this a movie that we could sit down and watch and I can still text and do my follow-ups? Or would it be better to watch the movie another time, because I do need to finish this right now? You know, I do want to watch it with you. Or if your follow-ups and stuff can wait a little bit, then watch the movie. You know, you have to have those times where you just say, I need to do what my priorities, the right thing for my priorities. But ask them if they're feeling like, I don't feel like a priority right now, and I really would like your undivided attention, then maybe you need to put your phone down for a little bit and you need to sit with your kids, okay? Or sit with your spouse, or sit with a friend who needs you right now. Whatever it is, just listen to what is going on, okay? Now, so talked about that, talked about boundaries, and here's the challenge for you, because we are now out of time. Here's the challenge. I want you to keep growing your habits, all right? And those are those daily habits. And I want you to be the bigger person, all right? Growing your daily habits is going to help you to be the bigger person. Instead of holding things in, you know, not addressing things, not bringing things to the light. I want you to be the bigger person, and I want you to reach out to communicate with people. I want you to have those. Remember I said in the beginning, I asked you, maybe you just need to maybe you're not feeling like there's any kind of tension, but maybe you should just go to your loved ones, to the people that are really important to you, and say, hey, do you feel like you are a priority in my life? Because maybe they're not saying anything, or maybe they're not acting a certain way, but maybe they don't feel like they can. So maybe I would challenge you just to have those conversations, you know, and then schedule a date with your spouse. to put your phone aside or whatever it is. Schedule a coffee or a lunch or a Zoom happy hour, a phone call. Schedule those times to say, I'm going to check on my friend, you know, and make time for others. And remember what good communication is described as in the Bible. Okay. Remember this in James 1:9. Good communication is what? Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Okay. So those are the biggest things I really want you to remember within this whole thing, is to know that when things are exposed to the light, they can be dealt with. They become visible, we can deal with them. Okay. And then at the end of the day, when we're having our communication, remember this: quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. All right. And then just work on those daily habits and God will work it out for you. So that is it, my friends. I really think that I just love listening to all of y'all. I'm learning so much. And I love that listening to what you are getting out of it. So like I said in the beginning, if you're listening to the recording of this, shoot me a message. I would love to hear, because feedback is so great. I would love to be able to improve on things and grow as as opportunity comes up to talk about these things more. So I love you all, and I can't wait to see how your life improves and grows through communication and relationships.
So
Miss
good.
Gina, will you close us in prayer?
I will be happy to. Yes.
Okay.
Dearly Father, Lord, we come to you, and first of all, thank you so much for Amy and her willingness just to put all of this together for us, Lord. And God, I know that you're going to use her in a great and mighty way with this ministry that she has. And Lord, relationships are so important. You created relationships from the very beginning. You saw that Adam needed a helper, and Lord, you created Eve. And I just pray that we will learn how to have healthy relationships, that we'll learn how to have positive relationships. And I know the ultimate relationship is to have you in our life, and for us to be able to ask you in our heart and have you as the God in our life. And I just pray that we will have a personal relationship with you. Lord, I lift everyone up that's listening to this, and all the ones that will be watching the recording. You know who they are already. And I just pray that you'll just watch over and protect us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank y'all.
That was good.
Thank you.